She's coming for
Number
Showtime,
4.
and she's coming for the licensing issue. And then Mike will be here too.
You good?
And what do we need Mike for?
Negotiations?
1 minute. Okay, ready?
Yep.
All right, welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting of July 16th, 2018. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, citizen statements and petitions. Don't see anyone.
You want me to go right to it?
Yep,
Oh, no, sorry, that's correspondence. to the board, I'm
correspondence. You
sorry.
can, no, there's no one raised their hand.
Okay, all right. So
Citation.
we have another Eagle Scout citation. I love reading these. This obviously must be the Eagle Scout right here. Troop 44? Very good. All right, the citation. Whereas in this era when traditional precepts of faith and morality appear seriously threatened, it's refreshing to find wholesome young American men who support and respect our sacred institutions. And whereas the Boy Scouts of America instills teamwork and leadership qualities in young men, further promoting the development of strong character, good citizenship, and lasting friendship. And whereas the Boy Scouts of America have made vital contributions to the youth of Mendon through training in the art of living in the great outdoors while building self-reliance, and whereas Scout Donald Halsing earned the minimum of 12 required and 9 other merit badges. And can I presume you earned actually more than that? Those are the minimums, right?
37.
Oh, good for you, good for you. And served his troop in a variety of leadership roles. Donald has completed his Eagle Scout Leadership Service Project by leading a group of scouts and adults to build a container for the proper disposal of worn-out United States flags. Oh, okay, so you're the young man who announced not this past Memorial Day, but the previous Memorial Day out front here that you were doing that?
Yes.
I better not tell him what I did with my flag recently. Now therefore, we, the Board of Selectmen of the town of Mendon, Massachusetts, do hereby on this date, I presume your Eagle ceremony is not August 5th, right?
Yes.
Award this citation to Eagle Scout Donald Halsing. He has completed all the requirements required to earn Scouting's highest rank under the outstanding leadership and direction of Scoutmasters and other adult leaders of Troop 44, Mendon, Massachusetts. Congratulations, Donald.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Got a motion here, Rich?
I move to award an Eagle Scout citation to Boy Scout Donald Halsing.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Are you capturing the votes or shall I?
Oh, great.
I don't mind doing it, it's fine.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Just gotta get it.
All right. Next is discuss 136 Uxbridge Road, Class 2 license.
How are we getting Gene?
Excuse me.
Thank you. Tim, do you want to come up? Kevin, do you know if Jean is still here?
And Cindy's
Thanks.
on her way. We're gonna need Cindy.
Well, is there anything else we can do before that?
I'm not sure I understand why we need Cindy. We've already gotten all the advice we needed. Expecting something, is something new expect to come up?
We wanted council's opinion on a thing. I think we'd like to hear from council.
Okay. Well,
Why don't we,
I'm not sure what else we
one
haven't
moment,
asked for
let's
already, but
just
that's
jump
fine.
up real quick to reappointments of number 7, 8, and 9.
Okay,
You can do that.
all right. Okay, I move to reappoint Sharon Cutler to the Land Use Committee as a member at large for a term to expire June 30th, 2021.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, reappointment of Ken O'Brien as constable.
I move to reappoint Ken O'Brien as constable for a term to expire 6/30/2021.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye. I move to reappoint Peter Powers as constable for a term to expire June 30th, 2021.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Should we take care of number 10? I think we can do that.
See, what's number 10?
Is that going to be a long
Sure, well,
discussion?
Alan was going to be here, but it's all right, we can do it. Then he doesn't have to be here.
All right.
Okay, so CMRPC had offered a group aggregation to go, to purchase fuel, heating oil, and diesel fuel. So the rates were received. There are 2 contracts here to sign, so I need authorization for either Alan or I to sign the contracts. In the past, we've gone through a Norfolk aggregation group, and Alan has signed the contracts, but because he brought it to me this time, I said the board should be the authorizer for contracts. So there's 2 here.
Okay, I move to authorize the town administrator to enter into an agreement to purchase fuel. Does it need to be more specific than that? That sounds kind of general. This is, all when we say fuel,
It's heating oil and diesel.
okay, and this impacts highway and what else? Anything else?
Yeah, any building with heating oil, plus there's a service contract involved.
Oh, okay, everywhere for heating oil, okay, all right.
All right, second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Oh, he's all set.
So back to discuss 136 Uxbridge Road Class 2 license. Gene, want to come up, and Tim?
Cindy.
And Cindy, if you want to sit here?
I'll tell you right now.
I wouldn't be able to tell you that. All right, who wants to start off here? I mean, you want to start with the background on this?
Sure. So there is a license that's been issued. The board authorized last month pending successful routing slips. This is an application that was received in February, which was reviewed by zoning and then reviewed by building, recommended to go to planning for a change in use, was then brought to the Board of Selectmen. It was authorized last month pending successful routing slips. The assessor using GIS maps doesn't believe that it's outside of 1,000 feet. The building inspector has measured the property with the zoning enforcer and believes that it is beyond the boundary of 1,000 feet. Council's opinion is that it's because it's a town bylaw and it falls under the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen, then it's ultimately up to the Board of Selectmen to determine how the process is completed, including the measurement of the site.
That's accurate.
Tim?
Yeah, so I just wanted to fill everybody in on what happened. So the resident came to the building department and requested a accessory use for their property. They're in the commercial zone. So we would normally look at the frontage on our assessors maps and
Okay,
add
when you
it.
say we, do you mean
Myself or
building?
Lori.
Do you mean building, or do you mean planning, or do you mean Concom?
I
What do
mean
you
building, okay? So we were both in the office at the time, that's why I say that.
Okay.
Okay, so they came in, and the first thing we did was grab the assessors map and added up the frontages, and it appeared to have the frontage, the amount of footage required, above the amount. So after we determined that, so I would immediately send them to planning board, only for an accessory use, nothing to do with the frontage or the distance. That's not planning board's function, okay? It's just for an accessory use to the residential. So they went to the planning, and that's what they came up with. But then when the routing slip came through, Gene had used the GIS and did it as a radius for the distance, which is the way that our bylaw reads.
Correct.
So, which she's correct. The only point I'm gonna make here tonight is, when I added up the frontages, they came out to the distance. The other thing is, when you do a radius, okay, and I think, Gene, you probably agree with me, that the lots angle in the back, and they're closer than the street. That's why I'm coming up with one measurement, and the GIS mapping is coming up with another measurement. Okay, so they either taper or the land, depending on the angles. But I would like to add one thing is, if you don't measure it from the street, the commercial zone's only 200 feet deep. I would measure it from the commercial, not in the rear of residential. That's my only, that would be my point as to why I took the road frontage measurement because residential's only 200, commercial's only 200 feet deep. I wouldn't measure to the rear of the lots because they're not commercial, so you guys can decide on, from there.
Excuse me, just one question, clarifying question, Mark.
Yep.
So the bylaw is specific to,
It
Radius,
says the radius, yeah.
yeah, the radius is specific to commercial lots.
Right.
no, not
No, just
specific to
radius.
commercial lots.
Excuse me?
Not specific to commercial lots.
They just used it as a term for distance, right?
Okay. Is my turn?
Yes, go ahead,
Okay.
Crystal, if you want to read that right there.
So I learned about this bylaw a long time ago because when I first started working here, I worked in the selectman's office and we had several people come in and try to apply for Class 2 licenses, so I became very familiar with this bylaw. The bylaw reads completely, no motor vehicle Class 2 license shall be within a radius of 1,000 feet from the nearest existing Class 2 license premise. The GIS system in all municipalities, because all the butters lists are within a radius. If the ZBA, Planning Board, Concom asked me for an abutters list, it is in a radius. That's the way it's set up. The only one that wouldn't be is if someone asked for a direct abutters list. So within the radius, and I think what the building inspector neglected to say is that he feels the Class 2 license is on 154. This is not completely accurate. He is also operating on 152. I too made a visit there, not because I wanted to contradict what someone else had found, but because I had a hairdresser's appointment there Thursday night. And his stock and trade is being kept on 152. His office is only at 154, so he's actually utilizing both properties for the Class 2 license. The Selectman's office is permitting it at 152 Uxbridge Road, which is well within the 1,000 feet.
I agree with that.
154 is about 23 feet inside the radius. But it's all a moot point because the bylaw is specific in that it says radius. And anything I've ever checked, the radius is always a circle. Doesn't matter if it's end, front, whatever. The bylaw was not written, to my understanding, and there might be someone else here who can chime in on it, was not written to protect the next Class 2 license. It was written by the people of Mendon, and that's why it's a bylaw, not a zoning bylaw, because they did not want Route 16 or the other commercial areas in town to look like Car Alley. And I respect that. So I'm here tonight to respectfully request that the Board of Selectmen confirm and advise all departments of the town that the Mass GIS mapping system for the town of Mendon is the measurement device that should be utilized, confirming distance and generating abutters information. That's always been a given, but I'd like you to confirm that because I feel that someone was sent out to contradict those findings. This is not something I use, up until about 3 years ago, I used to have to take my maps and try and figure out distance. We implemented the GIS system 3 years ago through a grant that we received, and now I just tell the computer what to do with the Mass GIS system and they generate it. So there's no, it kind of eliminates a lot of human error there. To that end, the assessor's office is the office that implemented, maintains, and administers that system, that all requests and/or inquiries regarding distance and abutters be processed through that office, and that no attempts be made to ignore or contradict those findings. Any inquiries or confirmation requests will be welcomed and answered in our office in a timely manner. I submitted that routing slip and never heard a word from your office. Not a word. I did not know that that was going on until there was a chain of emails between the treasurer collector and your office that I was merely CC'd on. I don't understand why the building inspector was told to do a measurement. You had the information. Bylaws are not up to the building inspector's interpretation alone. They are up to whoever reads the bylaws interpretation. You issue the license. You should be interpreting that bylaw. And like I said, I don't know of any other definition of radius but the circle. and Mass GIS systems are always set up that way.
Yeah, I don't think there's any dispute of GIS's accuracy or your work with GIS, because I also went in and looked at it just to play around with it, and
Thank
I did the radius from that point, and you're right, if it's at 152, no matter how you cut it, it's not, it doesn't meet the bylaws requirements. I think if it's at 154, which that's where we have to figure out how this all works out.
Well, I'd also like to add something else to that conversation. Through my research, I also found out that there is a planning board decision, albeit an old one, but I don't know that the planning board decision will expire, written in 1996. When Mr. Champ, when the,
Yeah, she's all right. No, I can still see her.
when the gentleman who owned the property wanted to build that building on 154, he already owned 152, but at the time 154 was vacant, and he wanted to build that building at 154, and he came in for a site plan review at the time. And I believe he was building the building for rental purposes. So the planning board made a decision and said that they agreed to his building, there were 3 conditions to that building. And he had to return to the planning board with a plan showing elimination of proposed fence area. When applicant pours foundation for building, he also pours retaining wall for existing library. And number 3, he had to move all of his vehicles from 154. He cannot operate a used car lot at 154 unless the planning board rescinds this decision.
Ms. Berthold, so it's my understanding also that irrespective of what we think the most accurate measurement is, that past practice has been that such matters come to your office for
Absolutely.
checking.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's past practice.
As I spoke to someone else in your office the other day, anytime you get a Class 2 license request, the first place you should go is the assessor's office and ask for the 1,000-foot butters list. I can do it in 2 seconds. Then you take that and you compare it against your Class 2 license holders, because I don't have that information. I just happen to know that there was always a Class 2 at that. There might even be more, I don't know. But I was aware of that, so that's why I jumped on this one. But yes, that's the first thing they should do, is ask me for a 1,000-foot butters list.
Wow.
Mark,
Oh, yes,
could I say something?
Cindy, yeah.
I agree in your definition of what the bylaw says. The bylaw does say it's within 1,000 feet of an existing one. What the bylaw doesn't say, and what is not clear, is where you measure the radius from. For abutter purposes, you always do it one line. I believe you do it from the perimeter?
It has always been from lot lines.
Right, but I can tell you, my research, when I tried to figure out where do you run the radius from, is all over the map. It's not clear. In state practice, when you're not talking about abutters, when you're running a radius, like when something can be 1,000 feet from a school, it can be from a lot line, it can be door to door, it can be from the center of the property. So I do believe that it is up to the Board of Selectmen to decide how they wish to interpret 1,000 feet radius. But I also would say that in the future, you may want to make some efforts to clarify, however you decide to do it, to specify where the radius is drawn from. That's my only comment.
That makes sense. I think.
I don't understand that.
Well, she's saying the method as to where you draw the radius from can be different based on, different towns do it different ways. And so,
But the center of a circle is the center of a circle.
well, yeah,
How is it that?
But what they're saying is,
where's
For the
the,
abutters list, you're going from property lines because you want to be overly or as inclusive as possible to make sure you get 1,000 feet from every property line included in getting notice. In terms of something has to be 1,000 feet from a school, say, to do something, the research I have done shows it can be measured from property lines, as you do in a butters list. It can be from the center of the property. Sometimes even when it says radius, they go from door to door, and which doesn't necessarily make sense. All I'm saying is, to make it crystal clear how the board would like to do this going forward in the future, you may want to consider clarifying what exactly and how exactly the board wants it to be done.
And to that end, even if you did it from the middle of 136,
It's not gonna matter.
152 is still within the 1,000 feet.
That's the problem here.
Yeah, but not only that, but why would we all of a sudden right now change the way we've been doing it if past practice is they go to the assessor and the assessor has a certain method by which she determines it?
I think you should think about it first before you make a decision on where you're gonna measure from,
Right.
because she has a really good point. Some places may do it from dwelling to dwelling. Some may do it from door to door. It depends on where they're doing business.
I get that. I'm not saying that we shouldn't think about it.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, we've got a past practice, and unless there's a reason to change it, and if the intent of the bylaw is, as I believe it was, is to keep Route 16 from looking like the Auto Mile, then why would we change that? Because it would be more inclusive.
So you should measure from Route 16 then.
Right.
What's that?
It should be on the road frontage, if that was the intent of the bylaw, to keep the road frontage not piling up all these
Right.
car dealers, then you would measure from the...
The distance should be from the
distance on the road, not from the back of the lot. If that's the intent of the bylaw, which it sounds like it was.
And that can be clarified at town meeting. But as it stands, it's a radius.
Well, a radius is just a point to point.
Right.
Right.
So where does that point to point start and end? Is it at the
In every
door
other
of the...
practice we have, because I'm the office that engineers come to for Butters List, Concom, Planning Board, ZBA, the system is even set up from property line to property line. I didn't determine it to be done that way. I came to an office that said it's from property line to property line when determining distance.
Frankly, the minute you pick the place you measure from, the concept of radius has lost all its meaning. It's
Yes,
not the center of anything.
yes, yes. And on that property, you don't know where that business is being conducted. Now, you're now going to tell someone, well, you have to be 20 feet from the sideline, you have to be, 50 feet in and here and there, so you're over here and he's over here. And again, this is all a moot point because 152,
Correct.
where he is licensed from and operating from, is within that distance any way you read it. Even frontage, he is under 800 feet of frontage
Right.
from 136
To 152.
to 152, according to my maps and me giving 50 feet for Mallory Street, which is probably overestimated.
When I-
Personally, I don't care what the bylaw reads, as far as, I don't live in town, I have nothing to say. I just believe that when you have bylaws,
Well, we have to respect the bylaws.
when I first started working here, I was told by a selectman who happens to be in the room tonight that it is incumbent upon all employees to be familiar with the town bylaws, whether or not they may affect your office at the time. A lot of these things do affect the assessor's office. When the planning board or ZBA does something, it affects our office. It affects the assessment of the property. Change of use will definitely affect us. So this is where we also get involved.
Mr. Kent?
It's a minor point, but I suggest that a survey by a registered surveyor should supersede any measurement taken from the map, because we found a few inaccuracies in that.
It is not a map measurement.
Yeah, but
It's
it's
a
GIS measurement,
It
which
is a
is-
GIS system.
Measurement is calculated from a whole bunch of data, and an instrument survey by a surveyor is what the real truth is.
So some of the confusion here is, at one point, he was registered at 154, right in your minutes. It was approved for 154.
In 2015.
16,
Which he
yeah.
shouldn't have been,
I don't know why it was.
because of that 1996 ruling, okay?
So, that was one. I called Laura, and then she pulled out the application. The application said 152, 154. So I drove down to the property. I didn't measure the property. I just went by our assessor maps. So I drove down to the property. His sign's on 154. You Google the business, and it says 154, and his office is at 154. So he's got to straighten out his as well.
Picture of his property. Circled is 152. If you look at the pictures, here's 152 and here's his cars. There's also a sign in front of 152 that speaks to his used car lot.
There's two businesses on his sign, and then you got a big sign that says.
But 152 is
154.
definitely part of his Class 2 license.
So he's operating out of 154, is that what you said?
He has an office there.
So that's his
But
sales
his
office.
stock and trade
Okay.
is at 152.
So there's really two issues here. And issue number one is that license license should never have been issued without the assessor's signature on that document. I expect that to not happen again. And I apologize to the applicant for having to been told
Do
that
too, yeah.
that you had a license that you didn't have because we have this problem. Okay? Then, once we get beyond that issue, then, the only way we could make work without going to town meeting, the only way we could make this work is to say that that number one, that the measurement's on 154 instead of 152, and that the measurement is from some different place than we've been doing all till now, which is just silly. Now, if we played those kind of games to try to sneak through the license for the strip club, we'd have people all screaming all over the place. We cannot do that. We have to follow past practice and not show any favoritism. As much as I'd like these people to have this, I think we have to go to town meeting.
I think you're right at this point, because, I mean, it sounds like there is activity going on at 152, and there is no way, no matter how we measure it, that it's going to meet the 1,000-foot requirement. It's just not going to.
And how can you ask the person who holds that license to only do business on half of his property?
Right.
His property looks like one big piece with two buildings on it. And he is licensed through the selectman's office for 152.
I'm happy to defend it at a town meeting and get the town to say
Well,
they're in or out.
I think I think we could do that. Did we talk about needing a September town meeting for the marijuana bylaw or anything like that?
No, we did not.
I'm just trying to think of the soonest we'll get to a town meeting.
So I have a follow-up question.
Yes.
This is for Tim. So when the applicant initially came in
3 minutes.
February, you had to do a measurement, right? And this is why you recommended that, you had to do an assessment based upon the map, you did a calculation and moved it forward to the planning board.
Right.
At that point, we don't do a routing slip then. So at what point, if you were aware of the 1,000 feet, you believed it was beyond 1,000 feet, and so you moved it forward. So the issue here is really, when does this come forward then to the board? Because these applicants have been through this process now since February, just to find out now that they can't have a business on their property. That's not acceptable.
That's what the routing slip process is for, I'm sorry.
But the routing slip
wasn't-
process doesn't start in February. It started after the selectmen's meeting.
Right.
So the issue is there something that needs to be done when they come in the door in February or
Yes.
whatever, so
Well,
that
I
they
think
don't
now
wait
that,
6
now that we have
months?
software, it's
Yes.
done, it's done.
Oh, yeah, that was your
Yes.
recommendation to the administrative assistant, right?
You issue the license, the Board of Selectmen's office issues the license. As soon as the applicant comes in and asks you for it, someone should send me an email or something asking me for a butters list of 1,000 feet. It's that easy. You'll get it within minutes.
Earlier the better.
Well, the application will be entered into the computer system too, and you'll get it right away.
We hope.
Yeah, it should
I've
be.
yet to see how the system will work, but I'm just saying that. And then when you get those results, those are the results.
I just want to clarify 2 other points for Jean so that she knows. So you said that this was sent in order to contradict your findings. I just want to be clear, Tim was out there months before you became involved in the process last week. And then the other is on the 25th, when you were notified and CC'd, is the same day that I was notified in our office, and that's why you were included in the email. There was no discussion that I was part of before that date.
I received the routing slip on the 14th.
Right.
A few days later, I did send your office an email asking if town council had been consulted as to the legitimacy of the planning board on this
Right,
issue.
but that was July 3rd, not the 25th. The 25th is the day in which you were included in the email.
All right. So, we have to stop for a hearing.
Enough anyway, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we're at the end of that. So, unfortunately, it looks like we need to bring this to town meeting. where,
Yeah.
that's where it comes down to.
So are we going to address where the radius is taken from at town meeting, or are you going to talk about it at a future
I
date?
think it should be in the bylaw.
Yeah, and we should do it all at once and figure it out all at
Yep.
once.
Absolutely.
That way, it's very clear
Yep.
where that point is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No time for further comment on that right now, but if you want to wait till after, we have to start our hearing.
Okay. So, I move to open the Showtime Entertainment All Alcohol License Public Hearing.
Second.
Further discussion,
Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing in the Upper Town Hall, 20 Main Street, Mendon, Mass. on the 16th day of the month of July 2018 at 7 p.m. to consider the application for an annual general on-premise all alcoholic beverages license for Showtime Entertainment LLC, George Fenari, 49 Milford Street, Mendon, Mass. 01756, under Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 12. All interested parties will be given an opportunity to be heard.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, gentlemen,
Evening. My name is Tom Lesser, and I'm representing Showtime Entertainment with my partner Michael Alio tonight.
thank you.
Should I begin to?
Please do.
We're appearing on behalf of Showtime Entertainment, as you know. We've applied for an all-alcoholic licenses to be on the premises. This matter came about in part through litigation. It was litigation which was in the federal court and then went back to the Supreme Judicial Court, because originally Mendon had a bylaw that you couldn't have adult entertainment and serve alcohol. And the Supreme Judicial Court eventually decided that case, and they decided that actually First Amendment protected activity had a right to serve alcohol like any other establishment. You couldn't prohibit it. And we went through a lot of litigation and a lot of attorney's fees, flowed our way, but we don't want any more to flow our way. We'd like to come to some consensus here. The establishment, as you know, is located on Route 116. And your past practice as a town is that's an acceptable location for an alcohol establishment. In fact, when I look at the map, virtually every alcohol license in Mendon is on Route 16. 10 of them. You actually issued one a few years back in 2014, right down the road from Showtime to the drive-in. There are 3 on Route 140, and there's 2 outliers, I'd call them. One is a winery, and one appears to be connected to the Southwick Zoo, although I might be incorrect about that. But it's in that area in any case. But all of them really are on 16. So the location is appropriate. When you look at the standards for an establishment, and I would start off by saying this is a very, very small establishment. We've submitted the plans for what we're asking for. It's 74 seats. It's the size of a relatively small restaurant. A restaurant that will potentially also have adult entertainment. We have an adult entertainment license, we understand that. But it's not a big place. When you look in the cases, they talk about things you can consider are traffic and noise and size. Size I just went over. Traffic and noise were handled when we applied for an adult entertainment license And that was a long time ago, and I can't remember whether any of you three were on the board at that point in time. But there was a whole series of conditions attached to that license. And we have no objection to those same conditions being attached to the alcohol license. Those conditions included an off-duty police officer. They included surveillance cameras outside. They included an employee monitoring the parking lot each night. They included internal security. They included that the building would be soundproof, so no noise would emanate from the building. So noise has been addressed. There will be no noise. That can be a condition of the alcohol license as well as the adult entertainment license. The First Circuit Court of Appeals found that traffic was not an issue given the size of the establishment. It is on a state highway. There might be an establishment there that's far larger that didn't provide adult entertainment. It's covering a small portion of the lot. It's a 20-foot rear setback, and in this case, it's over 300 feet. Borders onto wetlands and forest in the back. It more than meets the front setback and the side setbacks. It has 103 parking spaces, only 75 patrons by law, given its size. So we're happy to discuss and hear any other conditions you think would be appropriate. Everybody there will be tips trained, like in any other establishment. There will be a door person there checking IDs. There will be a security person there. These days, often people, I don't think it's been decided yet, but people often actually put the ID through a machine so you have a record of everybody who enters the premises. And that's something that will certainly be contemplated. I understand that if this was a large establishment with 200 or 300 people, there might be other issues involved, but we're just asking for an alcohol license for a 74-seat establishment that will have a common victuals license, that will serve food, that probably will, there are times when it probably won't have adult entertainment. It will just be a bar with food. So that's why we're here, and we're happy to answer any questions. We've submitted plans. We submitted a plan of the establishment itself and where everything would be in terms of the seating. So you'd see where the seating is, where the men's room is, where the women's room is, where the storage is, where the kitchen is, where the storage would be locked storage, of course, for the alcohol, so nobody could get in. Where the dressing room are, where the security manager is going to be, where security is going to be located. And then we submitted the big plan, which is of the entire premises, which you all have as part of your packet.
So just a question, so I'm clear. You submitted a application in, I think it was December? Was it December?
Right, and we submitted it for a larger place, and that
Okay.
was a mistake.
Okay, so just to
That
be
was a mistake.
clear,
That was my mistake. The wrong plan went with the application. We got here, we realized the wrong plan went, and we don't have any permission to operate a club of that size.
okay,
Well, we have permission to operate as a club of 2,000 square feet. And so we're not planning to do anything that we don't have permission to do.
right.
So that's why we withdrew that application, submitted the plans for the 2,000 square foot establishment, We didn't want to bring up any new issues by any means. I understand it's a very charged topic. It's a very charged, and, you know, we went through 3 years of litigation with your counsel on that. We ultimately prevailed. We think we have a right to do this on the limited basis we're asking to do it. We don't want to get involved in more litigation, but if we have to, we will, of course. But we'd like to have conditions that you think will adequately protect the citizens of Mendon from anything that might happen as a result of this alcohol, and move forward.
And you said that you would be comfortable having the conditions that are attached to the adult entertainment license also be attached to the liquor license?
I do, and I think that would be safe for you. Okay, there are some of those which are only applicable, of course, to adult entertainment. We're not going to have an off-duty police officer if, you know, there wasn't adult entertainment, but I think some of them, in terms of the soundproofing and other things, would be things that would be appropriate.
Can you repeat the comment you just made on the police?
There's a requirement for a police detail on the entertainment license.
Right.
On Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays.
So they wouldn't have a
But if we had a
police
sport-
officer there for, if it's just food in a bar?
If we had a sports night on Sundays, then it wouldn't be appropriate to have an off-duty police officer there.
How do we manage that, though?
Well, we just specify that during times that adult entertainment is happening, they would be required to have the conditions that are attached to the adult entertainment license. Although,
My
I mean,
concern
is
is
there,
compliance verification, that's my issue.
well,
It's not uncommon to have the conditions that are applicable in adult entertainment or another license apply to the alcohol license where applicable. The perfect example, and the one that's common, is exactly the one you were talking about. If this was an alcohol license for a 74-seat restaurant or bar, there would not be a requirement that you have an off-duty police officer. So to the extent that they are having adult entertainment and their license says when they can have adult entertainment, their adult entertainment license, that's when they have to have the police officer there. If they didn't, it would be a violation of their adult entertainment.
Okay, but I just heard Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
That might be what their license is for. It's not uncommon that you only have, I mean, there's not usually a huge market for any kind of entertainment oftentimes at the beginning of the week, and so it's usually a business decision that it's not profitable, but it can be for whatever reason.
Is that what their license said?
I thought I was right up on this, I don't remember that, but
Is
maybe
that
that's
what
the
their
case.
license is?
I haven't seen their adult entertainment license, but if...
I have a copy of it if you'd like to.
No, just from right. So you're telling me that the terms of the adult entertainment license that you've been given is Thursday, Friday, and Saturday only? Is
Yeah,
that
the
what I was
applicant
telling
at
you?
its own expense shall employ at least one off-duty police officer on Thursday and Friday evenings during the hours that patrons are on the premises. Such off-duty police officer shall be in addition to security measures required under the Mendon
I think you missed my
regs.
question. I'm not concerned with with when the police officer is required.
Okay.
I'm asking you, and again, I thought I knew that application, that license inside and out, but maybe I don't remember this. Are you telling me that adult entertainment's allowed by the license only on Thursday, Friday, and
Oh,
Saturday?
I'm sorry, it's allowed every night, but there has to be a police officer there.
Okay, so there's not a police officer whenever there's entertainment. It's only on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. That's what I wanted to clarify.
Right.
Okay, that's that.
But there are certain things like, there's going to be no parking signs on Route 16, that we're not going to be able to do anything until we prove there's potable water on the premises to your satisfaction. There are things that could be applicable to the alcohol license standing alone.
so as it
I'm
stands,
just saying that if we decided not to have adult entertainment, you'd want those, I would think you'd want those in there, and that would, of course, be up to you. but they seem like you don't want anyone parking on 16. You want to make sure that prior to constructing a building, that we have to demonstrate to the Board of Selectmen and the building inspector there's an adequate supply of potable water, it's going to meet the needs, that we're going to address all wetlands issues, for example, in number 10.
So with that license there, it says Thursday, Friday, Saturday night would be required to have an off-duty police officer, but would you be okay if we put in the conditions of the liquor license that any night that there's adult entertainment, there would be an off-duty police officer?
Well, I think that the entertainment license itself has been decided, but certainly if we had a police officer Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and the practice was there's a problem on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you'd have the absolute right to call us back before the board and request and demand, actually. You could revoke our license, or you could fail to renew our license. Our license is renewable every year.
Cindy, isn't the reality that technically is whether we like it or not really, we really can't consider the adult entertainment license in the consideration of this topic? I mean, this is all about an alcohol license.
This is all about an alcohol license, but many of the conditions that you find in other licenses, such as maybe hours of operation, or such as having a police officer on weekends, are not uncommon to be incorporated into an alcohol license. You can't affect whether they have adult entertainment or on what night of the week they have it. All you can do is look at whether they meet the requirements for an alcohol license and under what conditions would you find it appropriate. Now, the one that he talks about, having an off-duty license, a police officer on duty at the busy times, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, makes sense to incorporate into your...
But if it's already specified, what good does it do?
You
It
don't-
doesn't do any good.
Well, you know, it doesn't, you're not required to do it, you don't have to do it, but it gives you independent enforcement authority. So if you find that there's no one there on a Saturday night, if the planning board doesn't do anything about it, you have independent authority to do something and haul them in and say what's going on and amend you can either amend their license, you can ultimately modify the license. In a worst-case scenario, eventually you could, if you had to and things weren't going well, revoke it.
I got
So
you.
it gives you enforcement mechanisms, and it gives you an added layer of confidence in having some control over the operation.
When you say you mean the Board of Selectmen, right?
Yes, I do, yes, absolutely. Board of Selectmen, because you're issuing the license.
Okay, but if it's not in the liquor license, then the enforcement organization, if you will, I'm probably using the wrong terms, would not be the Board of Selectmen, it would be the Planning Board, is that what you're
If
saying?
it's their permit that it's attached to, yes,
The adult entertainment license would be that.
yes.
Okay, gotcha. I gotcha.
Well, we issue the adult entertainment license.
Right. Okay, then back to my original question. If we issued the adult entertainment license, and we already have the ability to do it under that, what is it gaining us?
Just independent ability to change both permits. I mean, it's just another way. You don't have to do it, but it gives you
To me,
independent
all that is an
enforcement.
opportunity to have the two not be exactly the same and cause us a problem and really gain us nothing.
But
That's what
they
it
may
seems like
not
to me.
always need to be the same, and you may not always want them the same. It's entirely up to the board. You have the ability to incorporate some of the decisions or not. It's
Okay.
entirely up to the board.
I still didn't hear Mark's question answered, though. Or you might have answered it, but I didn't understand it. So his question is on the evenings that you plan on having adult entertainment, can we have an off-duty officer? I think is the question that he asked.
The question is, we don't plan that at the present time because we don't expect any crowds, 20 or 30 people. There's no need for an off-duty police officer on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. What I said is that if in fact, at the end of the year, you think there's a need, when we come to renew the license, you're going to tell us we want people there on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. There's been an incident, or if there's incidents there of a criminal nature or otherwise, then of course you can call us back anytime, but you can certainly call us back at renewal and say you want someone there. But economically, off-duty police officers are quite pricey.
So Cindy, let's say we go through the first year, and there's all kinds of trouble on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Let's just pretend, for the sake of this example, right? And we get to the end of the year, and we go to renew. And we say, theoretically, the board can unilaterally, just from the board's perspective, say, okay, based upon what our chief of police is telling us, we're making you put a police officer in. Now, they obviously have some kind of an appeal ability, right, I would presume, but we don't need anything else to make that change.
No, I would imagine, though, if you were receiving comments like that it was to the point that by the end of the year you wanted to do something like that on renewal, you would take action sooner, and it gives you the ability to do that, and you would modify. And as soon as you started to see there being a problem, you get them back in here and you say, we're making this a condition now. So you
Okay,
don't have to
But
wait.
the three of us have we have the right to vote that at any time without having anybody else say it was okay for us to do so.
Well, you would need to have the applicant come in to modify.
No, I get that, but the decision is all up to the three of us, is what you're saying, correct?
Yes, if I understand
Okay,
what you're
now
saying.
they have the ability to appeal if they don't like what we're saying, right?
Yes.
But we have the ability to make the decision without going to some, like the ABCC, and say, no, you can't do that.
Right, just like you're sitting here now making a decision on the,
100%, that's what I wanted to know, thank you.
And I absolutely agree, too. You have facts, you can make a decision.
Yeah.
You can't make a decision without facts, of course, but as long as you have facts, you can make that decision.
What's
We
the,
both know facts are sometimes in dispute, right?
I can't, you know, we do our best, both of us.
what's your plan on signage?
I think that's covered by your bylaw, and it's covered by one of the conditions, too. I
Okay.
mean, there certainly I don't remember, I'm gonna look really quickly, but I remember that we agreed to limit our signage significantly. It wasn't going to be blatant adult entertainment, for sure. It was attached to the adult entertainment license. I can't remember which paragraph it was.
And what are the hours of operation?
The hours of operation for the entertainment were 4:30 to 1, as I recall. Could be wrong, but,
Is that Monday through Friday? I mean, Monday, all 7 days a week?
that was either the hours of operation, well, the original license said it shouldn't be before 4:30. I honestly don't recall whether or not, I believe the federal court actually struck that down, but at least now it's 4:30, we'd have to come back and ask to amend it.
Now, Selectman Burke's trying to figure out what days of the week. All 7 days of the week, or?
It's all 7 days of the week presently. I'm not 100% sure, because I didn't come here to address the adult entertainment part of it.
I understand.
Whether it's Sundays or not.
No, but forget the adult entertainment part of it. You'll be serving liquor,
Liquor 7 days a week. yes.
that's all, that's what I
That's what I'm
want.
sorry.
Up till 1:30,
Yeah.
up till closing.
Up till closing, right. And I don't know whether you have with other liquor establishments, whether you have a time after which you can't serve liquor in relationship to your closing. Some towns, I know, if the closing is 1 o'clock, will say you can't serve liquor after 12:30. I don't know whether that's your practice.
Do we know
I
that
don't
answer?
think we have. Does that sound familiar?
Well, that's the end zone. I mean, we had to do an amendment for the end zone when,
Yeah, but they wanted to go to 2 AM on New Year's Eve, but other than that, they
from
go.
1, right? So
Right.
they're staying till 1:30, so it's an additional half hour.
Yeah, but what he's asking is does our bylaws say that they have to stop serving liquor some number of minutes before the closing time? And I don't think there is.
No.
I didn't hear, I think he was just referring in general practice.
I just asked whether or not there was an amendment.
I don't think there is.
I mean, I would just...
Maybe specific-
I was just before a Board of Selectmen, and they had that as a rule.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't believe there's a general rule for that, but I do think that certain establishments might have a restriction, which is why
Oh,
we
that could
had-
be, yeah.
Which is why we
That's what you're
had
asking, yeah.
to do that in December.
Well, I think establishments do that as a matter of safety for themselves. They want to stop serving liquor because if they're going to close at 1 o'clock, They don't want people ordering at 5 of 1 and having the liquor in front of them. They want to be able to clean off the tables and get everybody out of there at 1 o'clock. So that's why I think the establishments do it, even if it's not a rule of the town.
Okay.
So I guess I'd like to know what some of those restrictions are, because obviously 1:30 in the morning's a pretty, listen, the wee hours in the morning here, we want to get folks out of there by 1:30.
1 o'clock.
You said 1:30.
I'm sorry if I said 1:30, I misspoke, it's 1 o'clock.
Okay. So we want folks out of there by 1 o'clock.
4:30 to 1, yeah, that's what he said. I think that's what he said.
I heard 1:30 at one point, so.
Yeah, no, it's 1 o'clock, and I think that's true for the landing zone. I think it's sort of true,
The end zone, yeah.
end zone, rather, yeah, I'm sorry.
So I guess what I'm saying is that last call, guys, I'd like earlier, because I want folks to be
Yeah.
exiting the premises by that time.
That's why I said, I mean, we could have a last call at 12:30 if that's something that you think would be helpful. We're not against that.
I think that's reasonable.
So, we don't have those conditions in front of us to put them in this light,
But I don't, what do you mean?
the conditions that are in the adult entertainment license, we need to see those to be able to decide which ones we want to put into the, because there's certain ones on that don't really make sense to put into the liquor license, right?
And given the fact that the board is responsible for both, it might not make any difference. It would be up to
Do you have a
council. But
copy
here,
of the conditions?
here's a copy of the decision, which has the conditions in them.
I think attempting to duplicate those in another license is just a waste of time, myself. That's just my 2 cents worth.
No, I mean, I kind of feel the same way.
But I'm not sure that they're any of great substance. It says we're going to comply with all the rules and regs, we're going to have water, we're going to do all those things which we have to do in order to open with your building inspector.
That's,
This is probably attached to the adult entertainment. I wasn't on the board prior to this. I just don't know the answer, so I'm just going to ask you the question.
Sure.
I think I heard you say that there's 74 seats.
Yes.
So who's going to monitor the amount of people coming in? Is that what the establishment
The
does?
establishment does, they check people
All
off.
right, so at any time, there's not going to be greater than 74.
I think it's 75, but 75, 74, whatever that number
I
is.
thought I heard. It says 74 here.
74.
74 seats, but I think the capacity
More
says it's
in the
80.
capacity.
Thought I saw that.
Yep.
One thing, one establishment never wants to be a sober capacity.
84.
That's the quickest way to have a license, to action taken against you is to be over capacity.
I'm sure that's what it said.
What are you going to do, sit there with the clicker?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
Again, I just want to make sure that people are off the property by 1 in the morning.
Okay, so,
By 1?
Well, yeah, they're going to be exiting the building by 1.
Well, we're going to make a condition that the last alcohol will be served at 12:30 a.m., right?
Yes, it's fine.
May I make a suggestion?
Yes.
please.
If I may? You have a license that goes till 1, but
Right.
not always will you necessarily do that, depending on the day of the week. You might want to have your condition be that the alcohol that they stop serving alcohol half an hour before closing time.
closing instead of specifying 1? Is that okay?
Makes sense.
That's why, whatever time it is, they have to stop half an
Sure,
hour.
if we close
Say on a
it,
Sunday, they only stay open till 10, because no one's there, or 9. You still want them to stop serving half an hour before they close.
Yeah. Okay, so then, if I understand the discussion that we've just had, we wouldn't bother to restipulate the same items from the other license.
Correct.
We'd stipulify, right?
It's a new word.
half an hour before close, last call, half hour before close, and then with the rest of the conditions as in the application. I think that's what we, that's fine.
Any idea on when they plan on building this place?
No idea, to be honest.
And why is the applicant coming in front looking for the license now?
I'm sorry?
Why is the applicant coming in front of us looking for the license now?
Oh, because they do want to operate in the future. They just don't have a building plan at this point in time.
One thing I find, I don't know if you stop me if I don't have the right to ask this question, right?
That's pretty hard to do, but I'll try.
Ask it
Because
and then tell me not to.
Yeah, slap me upside the head, yeah. Because the application specifies that the manager, the person asking for the license is the elder Fenari.
He is.
I mean, the man is older than my dead father. I mean, it would seem odd that he'd be down there running and managing the place.
Well, initially, he contemplates that, but we have to come back before you.
That's right.
If we have a replacement manager, and you have to approve the replacement manager.
Okay, but when we say manager, that means something definitionally, right? I presume that means they gotta be there a certain amount of time.
And they have to
gotta-
be the person that the license goes to, and they have to meet the requirements to hold the license. And yes, if it changes, if they choose to put down the senior, that's their choice. If he meets the technical requirements, and that's fine. But if he changes his mind, decides he wants to retire, doesn't want to do it, and they want to put someone else, they are right back before you. The person that they've come before you with has to meet those same requirements, and you have to say yes or no.
Okay, so if it doesn't change, if they don't change the manager in this application,
Then
and
that's
they
the
build the
man-
place, and they start running the place, and we could expect that person to be in that building some minimum amount of time a week,
Yes.
managing the facility, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Is there a specified time?
I don't
No?
know.
A day a week, an hour?
No, but they are responsible for the license, so if things go wrong and they're not there enough, they're going to have bigger problems than non-compliance with your license. They'll like lose the liquor license, and their business will be in jeopardy, and they will probably get fired.
Okay. I'm not trying to get tangled in
No,
the
I'm just-
minutia, I'm just trying to figure it out.
All right.
No, it's definitely very specific to an individual,
Okay.
and if it changes, they've got to submit everything again.
Any more questions from either one of you?
I'm good, I'm good.
All right, any questions from the audience? Okay.
Paul Lawson, 57 Milford. Is there a time limit on when this license have to be used? Or can you issue a license and it can just go indefinitely without being used?
End of the year,
What's that?
the end of the year.
Yeah, but they can keep on renewing it though, right?
Well, they have to come back before you, and yes, but the license itself is only to the end of the year. It's a year. You don't get a license that goes indefinitely. It is looked at and renewed annually.
Right, but I think the key thing to understand though is that's no different than if they were operating right now. They still have to reapply at the end of the year.
Yes, I understood the question, maybe I'm wrong, is how long is a license good for? And a license is good for a year. Everybody has to come back and get
I
that.
think
I
Mr.
think
License, I
it's
think,
more
Mr.
of,
yeah.
it because they're not actually utilizing the license. Is it, I mean,
No.
can they just,
No,
they can
I
just
mean,
have
we've
it
had
as long as
people,
they,
we're like, why do you want to come in November when you're going to have to come back again? Because timing for a whole host of reasons, it's just easier to get it done and start or have it. It just is a decision, but it doesn't give them more time.
I probably didn't explain it right. Will this hold up that license? You know, I know it's good for 1 year, but if somebody else wanted to apply for a license, so we have a certain number that we allow in town, and would this freeze up that one license, that they just keep renewing it every year but not use it, and stop somebody else from applying for it?
Anybody who has a license has the right to have that license, whether they're choosing to use it or not. Generally, my experience has been people who own an alcohol license don't hold on to it for very long and not do anything with it. It's just a waste of money and it's not profitable. And in terms of the number of licenses the town had, I'll defer to the town because
Yeah,
it's all
so we
formulaic.
actually had, there was a proposed restaurant on 140 that had a license for, I want to say, 2 or 3 years, that has not, that didn't actually end up opening, and they gave up their license. So, yeah, they can hold on to it and renew as long as they'd like to.
Now,
I got a follow-up question to that.
I have some information. There's at least one more license available.
Now there is, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one that
I
just
just wanted
opened
to
up.
say that.
I just want to say something really quickly on this. So, but in addition, though, even if it was the last license, and there wasn't others, then, Cindy, you and I had this conversation, so keep me honest here if I'm wrong, but routinely, the ABCC is requested to extend the number of licenses that you get, and you usually get them. So it's not like nobody could get another one. You probably could go and get another one.
The towns often will, for one process or another, through one process or another, if they come close to their limit or come to their limit and want to have more licenses, there are ways that they can get more licenses.
No, actually,
Chris?
that was kind of following up with what you just said, so it's fine.
Any further questions?
Hi, Jane Belleville, Washington Street. When would the license go into effect?
So we would approve it, and then it has to go through the ABCC, and they review it, and they would eventually make a site visit when the building is constructed. So, I mean, Cindy,
If it were issued now, could they potentially just start serving liquor on the property?
no.
It's tied to a floor plan and to their lease and to the building. No, that's not the kind of license they've sought. It's an all premises indoor to a specific floor plan.
And if that floor plan were to change,
They should be
they
right
would,
back in front of
they
you,
would need to come back in.
or you'd be going after them.
Right.
Mary Sweet, 50 Milford Street. So if the license is approved, and they need to put a floor plan together in order to use it, correct?
Correct.
They have it.
Then when does that license get paid for? Is it get paid for when the selectmen approve it? Or do they have to wait, say it takes them a year to get their floor plan in?
They have to provide a check with this application.
But the application includes the floor plan.
Yeah, there's a floor plan in the application. So we have it right here in front of us.
Okay, so they're gonna pay for their license now, and
They
if
have
they don't
to-
use it, then they're gonna do it again
Yeah.
next year until they have a building.
Correct.
And they have to do it again next year, whether they have a building or not.
Right.
If they want to keep.
If they want to keep their license,
wanna
they
keep
have
the
to pay
license.
for the license.
Rush to get the license.
They want to secure the license. I mean,
Just said they'll probably get one anyway.
well, not necessarily. I mean, you never know if 2 restaurants came in and wanted all alcohol licenses and they were waiting, they wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to get one. So, it's their right to apply.
And that's what my apprehension has been, and why I brought up that question earlier, is that obviously we're trying to stimulate business within the community. There's potential that we could have restaurants that come in that would be ready to construct right away, including the applicant that was on 140. Actually, you just said they gave that up, though, I think, right? The one on 140.
Yeah,
but-
so there's now an additional
That's why I was
license.
asking also about the timing of this. Because I'm questioning the timing, why the individual is coming now before us without a plan to start constructing the building and doing business within the community. So,
I think we can guess what that is.
it's a question. It's not a guess, it's a question.
No, I get it, but my presumption would be, and obviously Mr. Lesser doesn't have to comment on this, but my guess would be, he probably wants to figure out how much more legal fighting he's got to do before they can start building.
Fair to say. start constructing, we understand that this part of it's over.
Okay, any further questions?
I'd like to clarify one more thing with Cindy. So I'll be crystal clear on something. It's my understanding, Cindy, that there is a level of, what's the word I want to use here? Not culpability, but there's a level of risk in our capacity, even individually, not only as a person, a selectman of Mendon, to vote against something that has no good rational basis, that doesn't follow the law. In other words, we can't just say, okay, we don't like the.
Correct.
Right? We can't say that.
Correct.
Okay.
Cannot say that.
All right? And so in order to say no, we have to have some valid reason that would apply to everybody else
Correct.
to say no.
Correct.
I just want to be crystal clear that everybody understands that.
For example, if they didn't have a complete application,
Yeah.
if the manager that they proposed didn't check out, which ABCC is going to do and does, so you would need some sort of legitimate reason to say no.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
One more question. Mr. Sweet.
Sweet 50 Milton Street. I haven't seen a plan on this yet. Has there been any way of addressing the fact that that's so far down off Route 16? And there's a very difficult path to get out onto Route 16. Cars coming down the hill doing 50, 55 miles an hour.
Well, I mean,
Would there be like a turn-off lane or anything put in?
that's more of a planning board situation, but, I mean,
Yeah, I don't know, maybe we should check with Cindy, but I mean, I would think that was something that would have to have been considered with the
I
adult
would,
entertainment license.
I would expect that the adult entertainment license would have considered things like traffic and access. Given the size of the operation, it would not be likely that it would rise to the level, usually it's like a shopping center or a couple of big anchor stores that require a turning lane off of a highway into a new plaza, but a single lot, rather small building and small seating capacity wouldn't rise to that level.
Thank you.
okay. Any further comments?
Okay, I move to close the public hearing on Showtime Entertainment All Alcoholic Public License.
Second.
Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I move to approve an all alcohol license liquor, this is backward. I move to approve an all alcohol liquor license for Showtime Entertainment.
Second.
With the conditions you...
Oh, sorry. I'm going to restate that if you guys don't mind. Okay, I move to approve an all alcohol liquor license for Showtime Entertainment with the added condition that the last alcohol will be served a half an hour before closing time.
Second.
Further discussion.
Just one comment, I guess, guys, is that I just want to make it known that although I feel that we have no choice but to move forward with this license, this does not mean by any stretch of means that I am in support of this business. I don't think it's a good business for our community. I think it takes away from the character of our community. I know that's a moot point. I just want to publicly state that there's no way whatsoever that I am in support of this business.
Okay.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Opposed vote? Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. What time you want?
We're going to go on to invite Senator Ryan Fatman and Representative Brian Murray up.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening.
Aye.
guys just
Hey,
barely
guys.
missed another Eagle Scout at the beginning.
Oh, yes.
Another one.
Well, this is a pleasant act to follow.
Well, give us some good news.
I think they might have some. Yeah. Well, we wanted to come before the board this evening to give the town, I hope, a little bit of good news. The Department of Environmental Protection actually, in May, was recognition of the National Drinking Water Week, and they announced annual Public Water Systems Awards. And there were a number of different categories, and all of the water systems that they gave awards to have excellent compliance with state and federal drinking water regulations, complete compliance with regulations for calendar year 2017, no violations in the last 5 years. And the DEP goes on to say that the systems have gone beyond compliance by testing for secondary contaminants and by having adequate capacity. So the category of non-transient, God bless you, non-community systems are defined as non-residential water systems that serve at least 25 persons over 6 months or more, such as schools, factories, and office buildings from their own private wells. And we're pleased to announce that the town of Mendon, specifically your Mendon Town Hall and the Mendon Police Station, was named as one of the award recipients by DEP.
great.
Very nice.
And they say timing is everything in life, so we just wrapped up last week the environmental bond bill as well, so no better way to offer an award that is also comes with maybe some money. So Representative Murray and I worked on getting $1 million to the town for water infrastructure development. Still has one hurdle to go through, which is the governor's, the final conference committee and then the governor's desk. But we have it on good authority that the likelihood of it going through is high, and will likely put us into the 2019 calendar year, where the governor and his team will be coming up with a capital plan for environmental projects across the state. And we will hopefully come back to you and talk to you more about getting on that plan and being a priority and getting that $1 million released, hopefully for economic development and environmental issues not related to the previous discussion or building upon that, but something that the town can be really proud of.
Great.
Well, thank you for all your hard work, and trying to help us with that too. That could be, that could really go a long way here in our community, so I appreciate the effort and glad for the award, guys. I think that's awesome, so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is that younger child keeping you up at night? You look a little tired.
I've got two of them that like to skip some sleep.
Brian told me.
Yeah, 2.5 months, little boy, and now
Awesome.
new little boy. So thank you.
So now the fun starts for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. So we have this award for you from DEP, and obviously the announcement for the environmental bond bill, which hopefully that can bring some good news later on.
Yeah.
And maybe at some point, we'll be seeing glasses of water there instead of the coffee for you.
Fantastic.
Can we take a picture with you?
Yes, we'd love to. Yeah.
Right here, but with the flag.
Pick the right day to
Yeah.
let you guys get in the mail.
Tell Michelle just to get you from here out. These guys could go with me. There you go. Now you guys hold it and be in the middle. All right, here we go. Perfect. Thank you very much. Good to see you. Did you look a little tired?
You know what? Last night was a little.
Mr. Chairman, I'll give that to you. All right, good to see you later.
You're welcome. Good to see you. Good to see you. Nice to see you.
All right. Some
Okay.
good news for a
Very exciting.
Too bad we couldn't get an extra $1 million for the police station.
That would have
Can't be
been,
picky now, can't be
that
too
would have been
picky.
good.
All right. A minute here.
Mr. Chairman, where are we?
Why do I have my stuff from two different places here? We are going on to, wow, number 11. Discuss fire shared services.
I bet there's some people here who want to talk about that.
I'm sure there is.
Can I take, I'm just going to step out for 1 second, but you can start, all right?
I don't want to start this yet until Chris is back.
Do you have copies in your books of the document that we're about to discuss?
I don't know. I have
Let's
copies.
find
That's why I'm
out.
asking.
I brought copies. How would we identify it?
We do not.
Number 11.
We do not. No.
7,
Like with the draft watermark on it.
9, 10. I got something. Oh, no.
It's just a
one page.
document.
Yeah.
That's certainly not it.
Yeah. Can I see the, award? Just wanna look
The
at it.
what?
The award right there. I just want to look at it.
Do you need copies? How many do
I
you
have, I have copies here. I've got plenty for the board, for you, I thought for Laura, Cindy, so I've got about 7 or 8.
I'm gonna write in these
If anyone wants it.
Which statute?
Who do we need to thank for this? Somebody did a good job.
We'll have to find out.
It seemed to be a mystery of this.
You've been having that nice
Very fancy to it.
I put the watermark on there, why don't I?
Isn't that also rewarding when you
should
can
have
find it and get it on?
Yeah, to give to the Boy Scouts and stuff.
Because they could put it on their
They could, yeah.
dresser.
Yeah. Well, you guys are really gonna cost us some dough tonight. Mike heard.
I heard that.
Yeah.
We'll give you the 2-for-1 bargain. That's it.
Oh, sure, yeah. Buy one, get one, is that it?
Yeah,
Getting a BOGO.
Happy hour price?
yeah.
Yes, of course we are.
Buy one, get one.
Michael. Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Would you like to start, Mike?
Sure. Good evening, Board of Selectmen. So, about 2 weeks ago, I received from the town of Uxbridge's former town council a draft intermunicipal agreement that would cover fire services between the town of Mendon and Uxbridge. It's for fire and ambulance services. This is the first opportunity I've had to sit with you to go over that. And I brought with me tonight Cindy Amara, who you know, who's been here all evening, because I had her take a look at the agreement just to see if it complies with the requirements of what would be needed if the board were to decide to go in this direction. Just so we're clear, it is Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 4A, which discusses intermunicipal service agreements and would give the town of Mendon and Uxbridge the ability to consider combining services. I have a copy for you. What I have modified the version that was sent to me by their counsel, only in the respect that I added a draft watermark on here just to make it clear that this is a draft. I also want to be clear that this is a proposal from the town of Uxbridge. This is their first proposal that we've received for this. So I've added that watermark because this will now be a public document. And I've also added a document number just so we can easily identify it in the future.
Okay,
So
but this is a first contractual proposal.
this is the first,
Just so we're crystal
this is
clear.
the first contractual proposal. Yes, you've got, I believe that you've got bids for proposals
Yes.
before, and if I'm correct in my history, you as a board authorized to continue exploring that
Yeah.
possibility. This is
Yeah.
the first document that, first of all, it's a document that I received, I should say again, from the former town council. I was just told last week that Uxbridge has hired a new town council, who I have yet to speak
Yeah.
with. So I don't know if that's going to cause any delay and any sort of back and forth. I don't know how up to speed they are on this matter. I just found out about this last week when I told them that I was going to be coming here. So yes, it is the first document that we have. So I will let Cindy tell you where she reviewed it. Do you have a copy of it, first of all?
No.
Have you been given it?
I actually have a copy. Yeah, I printed it off.
May I approach the board?
Please.
Thank you, sir.
Nothing's changed on this from,
Ms. Newman, do you have a copy?
I do, thanks.
So we got this electronically then? We must have if you
yes, we
printed it
did.
off.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it was in our
Right over my head, I don't remember seeing it.
Laura had sent it.
So again, this is just an initial proposal. I would tell you that based on my review, there are, if this was something the board was going to consider further, there would be a lot of work that would need to go on this. So we're clear, we only reviewed this in terms of legally what would be required in this. This is not to say that we are recommending that the board consider any of this, take no position on that at this particular time. With that, I'll let it to Cindy where she did the review, unless you have a question.
There is a question in the back. Do you have a question? Obviously.
Can the audience get a copy of that now, so we know what you're talking about?
Right now, at the very moment, I mean,
I've got.
So we can follow along with it.
I don't know that we're going to go, are we going through this right now?
Not
I
that
don't.
quickly, no. I don't intend to go line by line because first of all, most of my comments are geared towards things that are not in it.
Yeah. But, okay, but if Mr. Macaro has extra copies.
I have
no problem.
I have extra copies. Mr. Phipps actually will, his union has actually requested this document. Once we've had this, we have actually told them that we would give them that. I don't have a problem, if the board does, of giving them an advance copy now. It's up.
Yeah, I would just rather avoid any
That's
kind
fine.
of appearance
I'm
of.
fine with it.
Yeah.
Just saying, I don't think we're going to go through this right now, but
Yeah,
I'm
please
fine
don't.
with. Yeah, we're not.
I certainly did not make enough of these to distribute to everybody. but
I understand, yeah.
Got a couple extra copies.
Okay, Cindy.
I think the first thing I would say is to reiterate exactly what Mike said, which is that this is a very preliminary first draft. And what's noticeable to me is its length. And there's good things in it, and the statute requires that it have certain elements presented. But the statute is really a framework, and then there would be a lot of detail. And this, as Mike said, is just the very first proposal you're getting. Now, the statute does say the Board of Selectmen are the people that will authorize the contract and to enter into the agreement. So you are the right people to be looking at this. The agreement must be authorized by the board, so when you get to that point, that'll be something before the board. One of the elements the statute does govern is the length the agreement can be, and the statute specifically...
When you say length, you mean term, don't you?
My mistake, yes, term. The length, the term of the...
I thought you were commenting on how many pages it was.
No, the length of the term.
Yeah, okay.
How long the term can be.
Duration.
The maximum is 25 years. In this draft, it is set at 24, I believe.
Yeah, actually, I think the draft, the way it's set is, it's an initial 3-year period, and they have it drafted that such it'll automatically renew for a term of 24 years, if not terminated earlier. That's in that paragraph 1 on the first page, and then if you look at paragraph 2 on the second page, it talks about withdrawal or termination of agreements. That is one of the statutory things that are there. It talks about what is the potential duration and how do you get out of it.
So that makes this a 27-year agreement.
Query whether or not this particular agreement itself would potentially violate the law if you said it would automatically renew. There's a potential for that, yes.
Well,
Yeah, there was a bunch of holes. That was one of my questions, actually, and I had questions just even around that first page.
Yeah, and again, I understand that you haven't had a chance to digest it. We're really just here to point out, what the statute requires, what you have in front of you. you know, whether or not you could have a contract that says this would be an initial 3-year period and then automatically, whether that would contravene the, was it 25 years in the statute?
25 years.
You know, that would be, you know, just from a perspective, there is a paragraph 2, and I don't mean to jump in on Cindy's parade, but paragraph 2 talks about withdrawal or termination of the agreement. Obviously, this is something that I don't need to tell the board, and you'll take a look at it, but, you know, if you were ever to consider this, we'd recommend that you severely strengthen this termination or withdrawal language. It's very, very general.
Yes. Right.
So, with that, I'll turn it back over to Cindy.
Right, and I think the keeping in mind also, as Mike's saying, is even though there's minimum requirements of the statute, and what is missing is the financial safeguards in the agreement, the statute specifically requires that these types of agreements have particular safeguards, audits built into them, the ability to look at costs, and there's absolutely none of that in this agreement, but it's a first draft. So those are the types of things, that whole section of financial accountability designed to protect both sides, really, and transparency is missing from this draft. And that's the biggest hole in the agreement from a technical, what is required under the law. But keep in mind that the law is a bare bones in terms of what you have to have as a minimum. From a practical point of view, as we look at the substance, I'm sure you'll hear from both Mike and I that there's a lot of things that aren't here that we would want considered.
So when I was saying a little tongue-in-cheek about when she was saying length, right? And I understood you meant the duration, but actually, you would think that this has got to be a whole lot longer than this to specify all that we have to specify, I would think.
If you look at, just to touch on the point that Cindy just made about the financial, what kind of financial things, and there's nothing in here about finances.
Yeah.
Who's going to pay compensation. There is a reference to what I believe would be an Exhibit A, which has an operating budget again, but there's nothing here.
It's not here yet.
It's not there yet. So
I really have not much more to say because there isn't much
Sure.
more other than
Yeah.
to say.
Okay, so I'd just like to make a point, though. Sure. Okay, I just want to be crystal clear on, for any of the fire guys that happen to be here, whatever. Understand, one thing I'd hate to see is in social media, the selectmen are saying this is the plan. No, this came to us as the first volley from Uxbridge. It doesn't mean any of this is happening, and it is far, far, far from anything we'd ever accept.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that's crystal clear.
yeah, and again, I tried to be as clear about knowing that there are some firefighters in the audience. I want to be clear. This is a proposal, an initial proposal that came from Uxbridge. And again, that's why I wouldn't put draft on this, because I would hate to see this get out there as this is what you were looking for. I want it to be very clear about it.
Right. Okay.
Go ahead, Sandra.
This is a draft from Uxbridge. Who will be counter-drafting to clarify, like, terms, and would it be the selectmen?
You want me to handle that?
Yep.
I would think at this point, right now, this is just a draft. So far, I think the only vote that I know was to explore discussions with communities, Oxford in particular. I think that at some point, the selectmen would have to decide that they want to keep going and put together some sort of counter. Some sort of counter.
So one thought I've had recently was, we've been saying that we haven't made a decision on which direction we're going, which we haven't. I feel like I'm at a point where I need to make a decision on that direction that we're going, whether it be hiring a chief or going much further and then exploring and actually doing shared services. And for me, I think what I would need to do before being comfortable with a decision would to do one more search to see if we can find
One more fire chief search.
one more fire chief search to see if there is someone out there, and I think it's got to be a very specific person that's going to come in and address the issues that we have, and see if we can find someone we really are comfortable with. And if not, then that will kind of decide it for me.
Well, how do we, doing that, how do we resolve the, some of the staffing issues in 7x24 and enough paramedics and all that kind of stuff? I mean, I got what you're saying. Believe me, if I could wave a magic wand and have exactly what we wanted, we'd have plenty of money to have all of that in-house ourselves.
Right.
But how do you address that with the, I'm not opposed to what you're saying, I'm just asking.
I hear you. I mean, the financial and service level aspect is still uncertain with going with our own fire chief. But, you know, as we've been saying, one of the biggest hurdles is actually finding someone to even fill the job.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm willing to consider trying that again. I would be.
Yeah, I actually, I totally agree, Mark. And, you know, if we were to ever move forward with anything like this, there would have to be a lot more substance in this. And there's still a boatload of questions that I've had that still would never be answered because it's a first proposal. We haven't even began to even try to iron out any of those questions that would even come about if we were even consider doing a regional service. So, you know, I had an opportunity to review it. I wrote out 100 notes in this thing of what my thoughts were. And, you know, I think it's great to do another
and I think we should continue to work on this because we still don't know which direction we're going. But if we need to go out and do another search and take another shot at it for the, third time?
Like to add, if we are going to, I think it's important that we have some direction, obviously, before November, correct? So if we are going to do a search, as soon as possible.
Yeah,
This
we
is
should.
Yeah, this is the time, really, especially if there's a potential council change in Uxbridge, where maybe we have a little bit of room here that we weren't anticipating to sort of be doing the two things concurrently, while the new council gets caught up to speed. My understanding is that the new council hasn't even received the files yet related to this.
Oh, really?
And so,
Yeah, I just to be clear about that, I don't know. I had a quick conversation with their former counsel, and I don't know what files he's given. I know they're currently in the transition process, and when you do go through transition, sometimes it takes a little while to get up to speed, especially with something like this, I would imagine, so.
So that being said, just so I'm clear on process, I think what I just heard is that the recommendation is that we do things in tandem. And if we're doing them in tandem, what are the steps that we take as a board to start really addressing this draft? I don't know what the steps are. Is that something that we do in executive session? Is that something that we do in open session? How does that work?
Well, I think that you could certainly authorize, whether it is us or, our firm with the assistance of the town administrator to at least come back with some sort of alternate draft that has all the things that you'd like to see in a contract. Put aside, how it would impact services, but just the things that you need
But I
there.
presume you'd redline this so we could,
Yeah, at least make some recommendations. I mean, even if it's just two comments to send back, hey, we need a section about finances, how are we going to pay? We need to clarify, if we were going to do this, how would we get out of this? How do we renew? Those sort of things to strengthen up any contract. I mean, we would never advise you to sign anything like this in any form.
I don't think they'd be expecting it.
No, and I don't think they did. Again, this was their initial proposal, so.
Right. So, Mr. Chairman, I just want to replay what I think you're saying back to you, make sure I totally understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Right? So, it sounds to me like you're saying you'd like to figure out whether we're all in or all out on this.
Yes.
The only way you get to the point where you're all in or all out is if we take another stab at finding a chief.
Right.
Now, if we fail yet again to find another chief, then we got to get off the kind of exploring it, play around,
Yeah, and
and dive right in and get the thing solved, because we're wasting time, we're burning daylight.
Exactly.
Do I understand you correctly?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Sandra?
I know that in the past, I've seen on the town of Upton, when they were looking for a fire members of the selectmen, the administrator, and a couple of firefighters, as well as town people. Is that something that you would consider when looking for another fire chief? To make a committee so that something, to get a broader aspect of, getting somebody in? I don't know if I'm wording this correctly.
No, I understand what you're saying. I'm just trying to
So would you
figure out
guys
how that,
approve with making the committee to find a new fire chief, adding other people?
I have a thought on
Can I
that.
comment while you're thinking?
please do.
I have a thought.
Okay, so I guess the first thing I would say, just from my standpoint, is that the problem we're having really is we're not having a problem with deciders.
Right.
We're having a problem with candidates. That's not going to solve our candidate problem. That's our problem, right? But as far as who to include, let's pretend for a moment we had 10, 15 candidates. I guess that's the first time that's been brought up, so I'd have to think about it, to be honest with you, from my point of view. It doesn't sound like such a bad idea, but I just have to think about it.
I have one thought about that, which is, because of the time constraints sort of in getting this done before November, normally I would recommend that we go back and we use MRI again to do it again. But I think we could handle the recruitment piece in-house, get it out as fast as possible, and then at least have MRI come in to do the same assessment we've done in the past, so everything is exactly the same. They are measured on the same merits, the same full day. And that day, that panel day, actually, there's the option there of adding people to that assessment day. Now, you could decide to include a person from the public on that, as well as me or anyone else that you want to have on that panel day for the assessment, so they can observe and see the candidates and all of that stuff. So I would recommend that if you were going to, my fear about forming a committee at this point is that
Changing the way we've done it.
it takes 12 weeks
And it
minimum
takes-
to go through a process like this, and we're trying to get it done before the warrant, so I'm just thinking of the timeline.
That's one of the things about hiring in this position is that, that's why we hired MRI.
Right.
Was to be that expert sounding board on the candidates and being able to help guide us. Otherwise, if you asked me to interview somebody, in my company for a position that I'm posting, I'm an expert in that.
Right.
But, really, it's those consultants that I think it's important to, in my opinion, personally, to, trust their judgment.
Is that, go ahead.
How about the chief that you have, the acting chief? Would he be part of the process to find a new chief?
So that-
Would he be able to give recommendations to the board?
See, that's a little tricky too, because he's an employee of MRI.
Right.
So I don't know how that actually would sort itself out. So probably is the answer, which is I don't see why not, but because he's not our employee, he's their employee, and we would be hiring them. I don't know how that would.
Yeah, that would be up to MRI to determine whether or not they want to utilize him in that vetting piece of the search.
I guess he's both employee, technically.
So.
Paid by us, hired through them, yeah. He's a contract employee, I don't know.
Did you have a question? No?
So I'm going to need, if this is something you're serious about doing, I'm going to need you to make a motion about authorizing me to advertise and recruit for a fire chief so that I can get going on it ASAP. I mean, ideally, I'd like to post it in the beginning of August so that we could have our initial returns by the end of August, beginning of September, when people are coming back to school, people are looking, and have something in our hands mid-September.
Get it started in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So moved.
While I'm thinking of it, did I inform you that I'm going to be away?
The first 2 weeks of August, yes.
6th to the,
Yes.
okay.
So, I think ideally, what I would do, assuming this, is reach out to MRI tomorrow, use the same sources that they used for advertising, use the same just to get it out, and then tell them that we'll bring them in for the assessment, and I'm going to say September, just for a timeline, if we're really doing this.
Right. Sure. seen that hand up and down so many times. There's something you want to say, I know you do.
Now, in the process, would it be, could you add it on, talking to the District 7 fire chiefs, see if they can help, try to find a fire chief for the town manager?
I mean,
I don't know what that means.
I mean, if someone's
if
interested,
someone wants
they're
to
going to
apply, or
apply.
if someone wants to reach out to them, I mean,
Nobody's gone to the district and asked them.
It seems kind of hard for me to believe that an organization like MRI would not know all the rocks to look under. I mean, that would be kind of amazing to me.
right. Yes, Deb?
Thinking it'd be something different.
Well, I think it's one is an idea, and they have the whole bathroom in their report. How could they, you know, I'm not so confident in this company. Their report, and this is an entire bathroom at the station.
Okay,
I can see them missing something like this.
go ahead, Sandra.
So would you be opposed to somebody reaching out to the District 7 fire chiefs?
No.
In order to get more applicants?
No,
Not at
bring
all.
it everywhere. Send it to anyone that you
I
might
would
possibly think might
absolutely.
consider this position.
I guess my answer to that,
Right, once we post the job, which I assume would be in the next week or so, once I do this, it'll be online, and then, or it will be advertised. I'm gonna use the same sources that MRI used last time, which were all fire-based, and then I assume we'll also advertise locally. But we always post the jobs online, so.
yeah, anybody is, it's up to them if they want to apply for the job or not. Once it's posted, that's the process, right? Anybody can apply for it. So anybody that's looking for that type of position that meets the credentials and want to come work for Mendon are going to submit their application, and we're going to go do that.
I'm just saying, you know, as to reach out to other people, you know, to try and broaden the search.
Right. Chief?
Yeah, so once you have the posting already, I'm sure you can do the same exact thing that retired Deputy Assistant Chief McKeon and I did. We went to the district when I was the acting fire chief, we gave them the posting, we actually tried to recruit people, so I'm sure you give that to Chief Harris, he'll do the same exact thing.
So
I would
to
expect
answer that, it was done.
I would expect that from Chief Harris. So, at the time, it was Chief Coleman, and we gave everything to Chief Coleman, and we distributed everything. I imagine there's a new president now, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, we had a so moved motion.
Did we need a motion for something?
Well, we should direct.
Well, I
her
need to be authorized to
direct.
advertise for the
Just say
position and
second.
recruit.
Okay, second.
Further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Ms. Newman,
All right.
you're on again.
So just for a point of clarification then, in terms of the intermunicipal agreement, are we holding off on this for now?
No,
We're continuing both.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I heard is you're going to redline that.
So you'd like
Get it back
us-
to us.
okay.
We can comment individually.
Okay, that's the way.
But if we get nowhere on the fire chief search again, we dive into that all hands.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's my position.
Yeah, I would agree with
I
that.
mean, I think it's important, I mean, if a new council came on board July 1st, they're gonna need time to acclimate to the town, but we do need to get in front of them as a priority. You know, so
Yeah.
we'll know better in a month or so. I just don't wanna see us lost in
Okay,
the weeds.
we'll reach, Cindy or I will reach out to their new council and introduce ourselves and see what they know.
Okay.
Great.
What are we up to now?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Number 12, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Discuss emergency management director.
Oh, shoot. I didn't realize we were gonna talk about this today, and I should have read your material before today.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chief.
So we don't have an emergency management director at this point. You guys haven't appointed one. We need one. If an emergency happens, we need something to happen. I know recommendations were made, either Chief Harris. I would do it for nothing. I have no problem doing it too. Obviously, if an emergency happens, a hurricane hits, a disaster happens, I'm here. We do have, I haven't talked to him too much about this, but we do have a retired assistant chief who could take on a deputy position and I could manage it here for you, I would suggest that he would need some type of salary to manage it.
Yeah.
We've always been neglectful in that part of our budget. We aren't truly prepared for an emergency if it was to take place here. I mean, we're bare bones. We make do. We always have. But that's something we need to invest in. So until either, we went towards shared services or found a fire chief, I would have no problem taking that on as long as we had a deputy with a salary. I wouldn't want anything for it. Because when an emergency happens, I'm coming out no matter what. Whether it's police or fire, if it's something town-wide, I'll be here in a minute, literally. So I don't know where you guys want to head with that, but we do need to head somewhere. The first week that you didn't have a director, we had a heat wave of 100-degree weather, 90 to 100-degree weather, and we had no one to manage that.
Yeah.
So we need someone to coordinate that and manage it with the senior director and all the other agencies in town. So
10, 8 minutes left. Mr. McKeon, a question? Go ahead.
Okay.
I have a question, but go ahead.
Mr. McKeno, how different from what the chief is laying out here is your written proposal?
Follows exactly.
Okay, so if we read that, if we were to take,
he's had a couple, so he gave me a second one. I can forward that to you too.
Okay.
I didn't see that.
I had a second proposal. One was with the fire department to maybe help that transition, but obviously that hasn't gone anywhere, and I think this is important that we need to act on it pretty quick.
Okay.
We can't not have an emergency management director, or someone to assist with it,
I should have read that for tonight. I'm sorry.
If we all had it, we might have been able to come to a...
Yeah, you know what, my fault for not forwarding it to you.
I thought maybe I was the only one.
So
that
maybe I
didn't
should have forwarded that again. He gave me another proposal, but it was
I wasn't trying to hide
recent,
it from
so, but I just wanted to see where you wanted to head with that. I mean, do we want to look at that? Do you want me to forward that to you? Can we do something my next meeting, figure out what we're going to do? I mean, in the meantime, I don't mind acting as the next month, just in my position anyways, to do it if something happens, coordinate stuff, and it's...
Chief, are you recommending that we vote that now so that we have coverage and then...
Maybe
work
for a
out
month, for
permanent
the next
solution?
month until we get the solution? So at least we have an emergency management director, and we can file for any grants that are out there.
Wouldn't you just be it by default?
What's that?
No, someone has to be appointed.
Someone has to be appointed. I mean, obviously I'd be here, but I wouldn't be, if the proper authority chains came out, I'm not the emergency management director, just a police chief.
My questions are about what, negotiating for a position that doesn't exist yet in the budget. So what was the previous amount paid when he was employed, and is the... $400.
We paid $400, which is...
Is there an amount? I'm just curious what
I think long-term, I mean, you need much more than that, but I think somewhere between 8,000 to 10,000 would be able to cover it for a year position, a deputy position. I'd manage it and then, let him do what he needs to do. We'd have representation at the district meetings again. We'd have a direct chain to, I could manage that department, the budget, whatever you need me to do, manage it. And then, obviously, when the big events happen, him and I have worked great together, in big incidents, back to the fire we had in December. So I think we're a pretty good team working together, so I think it would work out well.
I'd just like to look at the proposal and go through that. I have no problem if you're willing, if we have to make a motion tonight, have you handle it for a month, chief.
Yeah.
Then I'm comfortable with doing that, but I want to see a proposal
I
and
have
work through
a
that.
couple of other things.
Sorry.
This sounds like a great plan, and I welcome it. I think it's probably the correct thing to do. I just want to make sure that we follow a process, as usual, as I would. I do think you should appoint him directly now so that someone is covering the position, and I also want to make sure, so the position will continue to do all of the grants that used to be done. That alone, the value of having a person do that is way more than $400. I mean, administratively, that's a part-time position. So I'd assume we'd find it either in fire or public safety.
We'd have to find it somewhere, so, at this time.
And if we could start before November, that would be preferable, before the winter. I mean, so there's time to prepare. I don't know what the deadlines are for applying for different things. I don't want to miss anything because we don't have somebody in place. And before the winter comes, you know what I'm saying? There's a time issue here, so I want to put it back on for next meeting and make a formal decision then.
I'll give you everything Mark has put together, and maybe we can sit down and both of
Yes.
us talk to you about it and figure what the plans are going forward. I mean, and again, I don't mind doing it now because we do have an acting chief who lives an hour away. But if this goes a different direction, we end up with a full-time fire chief, he may want to do it. And I have no problem having him do it, but we just need someone to do it, a department head to do it.
Authorize me to negotiate with him for the position in the meantime, in between, and come back with something to approve.
Negotiate with who?
The potential candidate,
For the
and come back with
deputy
something
position.
on the 6th.
That's okay with me.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to see a proposal come out first. This is kind of news to me, so.
No, but what she's talking about is just negotiating a temporary something.
In between,
For us
to
to
see
look
where
at.
we're
Oh,
at,
I
to get
see.
an idea.
We gotta have a temporary something. I mean,
Well, I just heard,
I'm
I heard
offering you
for a month.
3-month, so.
I
have
heard
no
for a
problem
month,
with
we
that.
have a month to work through it, so I mean, if we just
Well,
make
but
them.
give Kim the authorization to work through it in that
work-
month and
see
bring
what-
back.
Give a
something.
solid
When we come to
proposal
the
to
meeting
you,
on the 6th,
you know.
we're somewhere.
And again, I'll take it on if you guys choose to do it as long as need be. I don't want anything for it, I'm gonna be here anyways, but I think a deputy position would do most of the work, and that's someone who should be compensated for it. You know, and again, if we end up with a fire chief, maybe they would wanna take it. If we don't, then we end up with Uxbridge, then we're gonna need someone here.
Find the money.
Motion
I need time to do
for,
that.
Interim.
Okay, so I move to authorize the town administrator to craft a temporary solution for, oh, God, remind me. the name of the
Emergency
position.
management
Emergency management director, yeah.
Second.
Okay, I was gonna say, we have a motion to appoint Dave as the.
Right.
Is that what you want to do?
For a month.
Well, so it's gonna be two
Temporarily.
Okay,
motions.
then I misunderstood what you said.
No, there's gonna
No,
be two
but you-
motions.
That's
Two motions.
So start with this one, and then we'll
Okay,
go
so
to
we
the.
got this one on the floor, so let's do that one.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, all right, so now I move to appoint Chief Kersey as Emergency Management Director for, do we want to say a month? We should say something less.
Sure, for the next year.
To a term never to expire.
Expired
Compensated.
August 31st.
Yeah, whatever you guys want.
Okay, fine.
Just to
We
give
should have it worked out by then.
Just in case.
Okay, fine, to expire August 31st.
Second.
2018.
18, yes.
2018,
Correct.
yes,
I don't wanna make that mistake again.
I had no problem with you slipping a 9 in there.
You smart aleck. Okay.
Good?
Did you second that?
I did.
He did, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
All right, that's it for the regular session.
Is that everything, yeah?
Yeah,
We just under the 3 minutes, she's saying.
I know, just in time.
Yep.
Oh, well, is there any other comments? Amy, yes.
I came for the emergency management piece because I was very concerned before going on vacation, knowing that there was going to be a heat wave, and unfortunately, nobody returned my emails where I expressed that concern. But I'm glad that you're doing something about it tonight. On another matter, I just wanted to, if I could publicly recognize, shifting gears is something nice, publicly recognize the 2 seniors of the year that were chosen, Jane Lowell and Joyce Gilmore. They're going to both be recognized. It's our event in September, the 16th, so if people would like to call and register, and I would certainly love to have someone from the Board of Selectmen present to give citations, and I will be in communication.
I'll
with your
definitely be
office.
there.
They're 2 wonderful people, and they've done a
great.
lot for Mendon.
They have?
So,
Excellent.
you know, thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Gilmore objects to being called a senior, but that's.
I know, it's hard. It's hard.
Okay. Let me see my motion. I move to enter into executive session under Purpose 3, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation, as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. For the litigation update and Mendon Town Hall Union Local 272, Mendon Highway Department Union Local 272, Mass Coalition of Police Union, AFL-CIO Local 188, Mendon Police Civilian Dispatch Union Local 188A, and Mendon Permanent Firefighters Union Local 4936 IAF, and executive session for Purpose 2 to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, Mendon Police Association Local 188, and Mendon Civilian Dispatch. Roll call vote is needed. Reconvene only to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Schofield, aye?
Burke,
Bill,
aye.
aye. Thank you.
We made it? All right.